What's up? It's the last day of the year, 2024. Just heading back from CrossFit. Let's get these windows clear. I'm gonna go to Reddit for a topic today. I think this is a super interesting one. I feel like I don't see people talk about this kind of thing a lot. Sorry, these windows are still too mangled. And this spot is kind of crappy to back out of. Oh, there's a car coming. Of course, that would happen today. But the topic is about someone who's been kind of, stuck at a particular pay in their job for a while. And they said it's due to family situation, so it's not like, some other factor, like they can't get promoted or they don't, they've never tried looking for a job or something, but, or never considered it. I think they're saying, got some family stuff going on for a while for whatever personal reasons, kind of keeping them in their job, and they're kind of feeling like pay-wise it's kind of mostly plateaued, whatever. But they said on a whim, they said, I'm going to go start applying. So I don't know exactly what changed for them, so kind of an interesting omission from the post, but something's changed. And we're at the very end of December right now. They were saying they applied to some jobs at the beginning. First job rejected them. Second jobs were kind of quiet. And then sort of very recently they got an update from the two jobs. And one was a small incremental increase in pay. And the other one was pretty significant. I don't know what the currency is that they were talking about. I suspect it's from India. I'm not totally sure, but they just had a letter for it, I think. So, but the unit, like basically the quantity was almost double. So that's a pretty significant step up in pay. Now, they were saying they're kind of like hesitant, I guess maybe is a good word for it, because it's going to be for a principal level engineering role. Now, they've been a software engineer, they said, I think for 15 and a half years. Okay, so for context, I'm a principal engineering manager at Microsoft. I had been managing engineering teams for 8 years before that. I had 2 years of working experience built up before that, so like 10 years. So 10 years, and I was, accepted into Microsoft, a principal engineering manager, for a principal engineering manager role. This person has 15 and a half years, so they have 50% more work experience than I had. Now, I know like not every year is equal, not all work experience is equal. We're talking about engineering manager versus software engineer. There's a lot of differences here, but my point is that if we assume some of these variables are roughly the same, they do have, 50% more time in industry than I would have when I was applying to Microsoft. So the reason I'm saying that is because if they felt like they had quality years of, in their career, then I feel like that's a pretty significant amount of experience, okay? It's not like, hey, like I, graduated from college or university, and then after a couple years I'm senior, and now it's like year 3 and they're putting me to principal, and it's like, I don't know. I think after like 15 and a half years, you've seen a lot. But the reason that I think this is such an interesting topic is because I don't often hear people talk about this. It's like, I got a job offer. Hell yeah, I'm taking the one with more money. Like, no brainer, jumping into it. And that's all I see. So this is very interesting that this person is hesitant, and they're saying, I'm not actually sure if I'm like prepared for that. Now, their stance at the end of their post was they're leaning towards taking that job. I'm assuming because the other job offer they have is only a small step up in pay. So it's kind of like, I talked about this on one of the recent vlog entries, but the sort of like the overhead that it might put on you to go switching careers for like for what might seem like a very small change in pay, you might be like, it's just not worth it. Like, there's a lot of hassle to go learn stuff. Maybe for some people that's a really good opportunity. They're like, pay is the same, pay is maybe less, and they're like, I think that this is going to be a better learning opportunity or better balance in my work life balance, right? So like, for some people that like the pay might not be a big factor, but it seems like for this individual, they're saying like, it kind of seems to be one of the focal points that they have. So they are leaning towards this role that's higher paying, like significantly, but also comes with a higher title. So where my head is at for navigating this is like, is this imposter syndrome, or are they genuinely the imposter, right? Like, I would lean, like, without knowing this person, again, if I make some assumptions about 15 and a half years, assuming those are some good working years, not just like wasted trying to coast, that's probably a good amount of experience. Like, I'm kind of doubting that they are an imposter. They probably do have the necessary skills. But it's, as they're talking through this in the post, you can tell they're kind of like second guessing themselves. So my gut feel tells me this is some imposter syndrome going on. But at the same time, like, without knowing this person and knowing where their skill sets are, like, maybe they have genuine concerns about thinking about art. They kind of mention it, right? Like, you know, I think I'm going to have to spend more time doing architecture. Like, do I have to brush up on that? Like, how, like, all these things that, like, at a principal level, these are your expectations now, right? It's not like, oh, good job that you did that. It's like, it's not just good job. It's like, we expect that of you. You need to be doing that at steady state. So this person is kind of doing this reflection and going, like, I don't know how much of that I do already, or how much experience I actually have doing that. Like, what is my comfort level doing that? So, I mean, a couple thoughts come to mind here for me. Is like, one, I know like when people talk about imposter syndrome, it's like very much we don't like it. We want to, like, how do we get rid of it? How do we prevent it? Like, it's this thing that's like, you know, stopping us from achieving greatness is like often how it feels like it's framed. But I think in this context, it's actually a bit of a helpful tool, depending on the severity of it. And I wanted to talk about this a little bit more. I don't think it's helpful when it starts to cripple you or starts to make you like genuinely fearful, right? If it's truly inhibiting you, I think that's where it's like, that's not good. I don't think that we need to impose any more, I don't know, like barriers for our success on ourselves. But I think this is why it sounds kind of funny, I guess, but I think a little bit of it's actually helpful, because in this case, it's forcing this person to do some reflection. Okay, like they're genuinely asking themselves, or asking Reddit, I don't know, like, depending on how you look at it, like I don't know if these are some of the things I'm good at. So I think it's helpful in this case because they're going, I think these are expectations at a principal level. So they're doing this analysis and going, at this level, these are new expectations, okay? And where are my skills? So clearly they interviewed people that interviewed them. They have the belief that this person can operate at that level. That's a good sign, obviously. But when this person's doing their honest reflection, I think it's helpful for them to go, like, if I'm expected to do more architecture work, maybe the answer here is not, oh, I guess I shouldn't take the role because I don't have a ton of architecture experience or I don't feel confident in it. I think the answer is, I'm going to take this role. This is my opinion, by the way. I'm going to take this role, and I know that I feel uncomfortable about architecture. I feel like that's an area I need to improve in. So what should I do? I should go spend time and improve this skill. Like, instead of looking at these things like, oh no, I don't have this skill. Oh no, that's preventative. Oh no, that's a barrier that's going to keep me from this. I'm going to fail. Instead of doing that, try reframing it to be like, okay, like these are the things that I need to get better at, and I'm going to acknowledge them. I'm going to jump into this, and I'm going to make sure that I'm spending extra time improving these things that I think need more effort. So it's hard to answer this kind of stuff without knowing more details about the person. Like, for example, if I could sit down and talk with them and, like, I guess, like, interview them, maybe not the same way, but, like, just to get an understanding of, like, when they're talking about their confidence in architecture or leading projects and things like that, like, if I were to hear them talk about examples of when they've done this, are they able to share examples of it, and they're just kind of like maybe being modest, or again, like the imposter syndrome's kicking in? Or is it truly like, hey man, I managed to get by and I haven't really actually spent time leading projects, or I haven't spent much time doing architecture? If it's more of the latter, where it's like I haven't spent time doing these things, what I would say to a person that's in a situation like this is, like, you have a job offer and you're like, I don't know if I can do some of the expectations. I talked about this in another video where I said job hopping, and this isn't the case for this person, but similar kind of thing to think about is, I said in a previous video that I absolutely think that people can, if you like hyper focus on job hopping, you can really try to optimize like how much you're making, and you can optimize like your career ladder progression, but potentially at the cost of this increased risk of like, I can't do my role effectively. So this also comes to mind as this person's talking, but based on their provided information, they're not job hopping. I think they were saying like they've been at the same place for quite a while now. So certainly not that, but it's this, this situation where someone's like, I'm about to take on a role and I don't know if I can do it. So I think it's the hyper focus on job hopping really highlights this kind of thing. But I don't think that this person, I don't think that they're in that situation. So I suspect a lot more of it is imposter syndrome. But I wanted to bring up the job hopping part because same idea when you find yourself like in this opportunity where you're like, cool, there's this, it could be cool job, it could be you get to relocate and that's awesome, could be awesome pay, could be all the above, but you're like, I don't know if I can do the role. So I think I gotta clear this windshield, holy crap, where did that come from? I think it depends on the person a lot though. If you're someone who's not like self-motivated, right? Like if you're not the kind of person who's like, okay, I gotta figure out how to do better on this. So I gotta turn here. If you're not the kind of person to do that, like when do you think it's gonna happen, right? So that's the thing that I would want you to be honest with yourself about. Now, I would still be hard pressed to tell someone, hey, you know what, maybe you shouldn't take the job that's paying twice as much if all other things are equal, truly, and I don't know that for a fact here, but if they were, all other things are equal, but one of them is going to pay you twice as much, I would think you need to be very concerned that you will not be able to operate at that level. If you are very concerned and you're like, I don't think that I have it in me, like the initiative, or maybe I need to dedicate extra time to go skill up or put in a little bit of extra effort up front, when I'm starting the job position. Like if all those are things where you're like, absolutely not, don't have capacity for it, which by the way, it's not a wrong answer, depending on where you are in life, your work-life balance and all these other things. It's absolutely acceptable to say like, I do not have time or capacity to go deeper on some of these things. That's okay, it's not wrong. But if you're considering that, then I would say, well, okay, like when you go to take this role on, like how do you expect, if you feel like you're not there, how do you expect to get there if it's not extra time or extra effort? And it's not like that's not like a condescending question or facetious question. It's a genuine question. Like, because if not, how do you feel about like when it comes time for performance rewards, and like, do you want to feel like you're in a job position where you're like, hell yeah, I'm rocking this every time? Or are you willing to take on a little bit of risk and being like, maybe I'm going to go through a period where my performance is not top notch because the bar is set so much higher than you're used to, right? You might not even, the reality is you might be thinking the bar is set way higher because of the job title and the pay is higher, and you might get into it and you're like, oh, this is all the stuff I do anyway, like it's fine. But these are things that I would want you to think about when sort of doing like the risk analysis is kind of how I might look at that. So I think there's a bunch of things to think about, but I thought this question was really interesting because I feel like when I'm hearing people talk about job offers and stuff, I almost never hear people kind of take this perspective. It's almost always the opposite, right? Social media is pretty bad for people being like, I've been coding for 1 week and I landed a $900,000 a second job, and take my course and you can be just like me. And then the course is like, I didn't actually get the job, but if you sell a course and you charge $900,000 and someone buys it, you can make $900,000 in a second. You know what I mean? Like, it all feels kind of like typical social media shit. Not to say that there aren't people out there that have had great success doing things fast, and that's awesome, but like, man, like that's not the norm. Like, it's just not the norm. So we don't need to always look at things through that lens, and social media is kind of crappy for that. So I thought good opportunity to actually have some reflection. I don't know this person, so I'm genuinely hopeful that they have a little bit of imposter syndrome kind of making them kind of check themselves. And I'm hopeful that, based on their own reflection, they're like, I think I can do this, or I think I can put in a little bit of effort if there are some things that maybe aren't where they want them to be operating at, and they take the role, right? Before I kind of pull into my house here, the thing that I wanted to kind of channel into this conversation is like, in my own career, I've talked about this many times. In my own career, there's been situations where I've been kind of put into something that feels uncomfortable based on my experience. Okay, and first example, going from a startup to big tech, I'm at a principal engineering manager level. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's uncomfortable. Do I think I can do it? I do, though. Like, I think I'm capable of that. But what about the team I was on? Substrate deploying to hundreds of thousands of machines across the world. I've never had to work with anything in a data center before. Okay, but did I do it? I sure did for 3.5 years. And then I switched teams and I work on the routing plane for Substrate now. We serve trillions of requests per day. Do I know anything about routing technology in detail before coming onto the team? Nope. Right? So I have found that putting myself into uncomfortable situations for me has worked extremely well. But again, this is based on, I know myself, right? Like, I don't like putting myself in uncomfortable situations, but when it kind of happens, I know that based on what I'm like I don't like feeling like an idiot. And what's the way to not feel like an idiot? It's to try and learn your shit. So I think that because of that, and because of like how I am, when I'm put into uncomfortable situations, I'm like, I gotta learn. It's a forcing function. I don't like being uncomfortable. I will learn. So maybe this individual is similar in that regard, where they're like, I'm put into this principal engineering level. It's uncomfortable, but like, I don't want to be uncomfortable. Like, I'm going to get better, or I'm going to address those gaps. Maybe that's imposter syndrome. I'm going to address those gaps so I feel confident again in them. If they're not that kind of person, it might be a struggle. So I think that it takes some reflection, some honesty, but I'm very hopeful that this person has success with that. So hope that was kind of interesting. I don't have any more driving to do today because I'm working from home. Tomorrow's New Year's. So I guess by the time you're watching this, though, it will be New Year's. So Happy New Year to you. I wanted to remind folks, if you have questions and stuff, if you watch this far, put them in the comments, find Dev Leader on social media, send me a message. But yeah, I'm super excited to have a full year of Code Commute with all of you. So thanks for being here with me. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I appreciate all the questions that come in and people reaching out on social media. So thanks so much. And I'll see you next time. Take care.